Ever since I can remember, the quaint village I call home has been cocooned by the ancient arms of a willow forest. The trees, with their long, sweeping branches, seem to cradle secrets of the ages, whispered softly with each breeze. Living on the outskirts of this village, I, Evelyn, a single mother, found my sanctuary within these whispering woods. Life as a single parent never promised ease. Each day unfurled a tapestry of endless tasks, decisions resting squarely on my shoulders, and a loneliness that often seemed too vast to bridge. Amid this solitude, the willow forest became my confidant. I began my daily escapes to the forest during a particularly stifling summer, when the air in my cottage felt too thick with unspoken words, and the walls seemed to inch closer with each passing moment. My daughter, just 5, would watch with curious eyes as I prepared for what she called Mommy's quiet time. She never questioned it. Perhaps even at her tender age, she understood that I returned always a bit lighter, a bit more hers than before. In the forest, surrounded by the gentle rustle of leaves, I found solace. I talked to the trees as if they were old friends. I shared my fears of failing as a mother, my worries about the future, my fleeting moments of joy. The willows listened. Their whispers back seemed to carry the wisdom of the world. They spoke of endurance, of the quiet strength that comes from simply standing through the seasons. With each visit, I felt a profound connection not only to the natural world around me, but also to myself. The forest was a mirror, reflecting back the parts of me I had ignored or forgotten in the hustle of everyday survival. It reminded me of my resilience, taught me to listen to my own inner voice, and gently nudged me towards acceptance of my own vulnerabilities. These moments under the willows were not just escapes, they were pilgrimages to the heart of my world. Here in the soft murmur of the leaves, I was not just Evelyn the mother, Evelyn the provider, but Evelyn the individual, still growing, still learning how to be. As the story unfolds, the essence of the village and the enigmatic allure of the willow forest weave together, creating a backdrop not just of a place, but of a journey. My journey through the trials and triumphs of single motherhood, supported by the ancient whispers of the willows. As the seasons changed and the chill of autumn set into the village, so too did my routine deepen with the willow trees. With each visit, the breeze grew crisper, and on one particular windy afternoon, my whispered confessions were swept away, dancing with the leaves, farther than I ever intended. Unknown to me, my words, carried by the robust gusts, reached other villagers who had sought the solitude of the willows. Among the rustling whispers, they heard fragments of my fears and hopes, believing them to be the tree's mystical counsel. This misinterpretation sparked a curious change within the village. Days turned to weeks, and the forest became a gathering place for the villagers. They came individually at first, then in small groups, each person seeking the willow's wisdom. They shared whispered tales of their own, struggles with health, worries of love lost, the burdens of daily toil. Each left feeling lighter, attributing the cathartic release to the trees, not knowing it was a shared human connection inadvertently binding us together. During one of my nightly scrolls online, in search of anyone who might share this peculiar connection with nature, I stumbled upon a forum titled Whispers of Nature. Here were people from all corners of the globe, finding solace in the arms of nature's wonders, forests, oceans, mountains, each with its own story. Reluctantly, I began sharing my experiences with the willow trees. The responses were immediate and heartfelt. People understood, or at least wanted to understand, and soon I found myself woven into a tapestry of shared human emotions and stories, all rooted in nature's embrace. This digital camaraderie offered a new perspective on my visits to the willow forest. No longer were they just a personal retreat, but a universal experience that connected strangers through the common thread of seeking peace in nature. I learned about rituals from distant lands, stories of ancient trees that healed, and the simple yet profound acts of sitting silently by a babbling brook. Each story, each interaction, made me feel less isolated, less peculiar about my own practices. In the village, the collective visits to the willow forest became more structured. We started meeting every first Sunday of the month, each of us aware now that the words we heard on the wind were not just from the trees, but from each other. These meetings, though rooted in a misunderstanding, blossomed into a heartfelt tradition that strengthened the bonds within our community. We shared, not just words, but also silences, each of us finding solace in the shared human condition, comforted by the gentle sway of the willows. The willows, our silent witnesses, stood by us, their whispers now a chorus of our combined voices, echoing the resilience and shared strength of a community brought together by the simple act of listening, both to nature and to each other. Through these interactions, both online and in the heart of our village, I found a profound sense of belonging and understanding, a reminder that no matter our struggles, we are never truly alone. As the willow gatherings became a fixture of village life, something within me began to shift. Each story shared, each vulnerability exposed under the watchful eyes of the willows, painted a portrait of authenticity that was both terrifying and liberating. Through these stories, both from my neighbors and those I met online, I learned the true strength that comes from authenticity. I remember one evening under the soft glow of twilight, the willows whispering above us. I took a deep breath and shared more than just surface worries. I shared dreams I had harbored quietly, fears that kept me awake at night, and hopes for the future that I dared not speak aloud before. The act of revealing my deeper self, while daunting, was met with nods of understanding and supportive smiles. It wasn't just about being heard, it was about being seen. This newfound courage was not confined to the shadow of the willows. At home, I began to share more with my daughter. I told her stories of my youth, the dreams I held onto, and the challenges that shaped me. I encouraged her to express her own thoughts and feelings, to embrace who she was without fear. Watching her speak her mind with the same openness brought a swell of pride. Our relationship deepened, grounded in a mutual respect for our authentic selves. The monthly willow gatherings grew in significance. They became our village's heartbeats, pulsing with stories of sorrow and joy, struggle and triumph. We celebrated each other's victories, no matter how small, and offered shoulders to lean on during harder times. These gatherings were no longer just a means of support, they were celebrations of life itself. In this circle of trust and openness, I found myself growing. I was no longer just Evelyn, the single mother struggling to make ends meet and raise a child alone. I was Evelyn, a woman of stories and dreams, of fears and hopes. The more I accepted and expressed my true self, the more I flourished. I laughed more freely, I spoke more boldly, and I loved more deeply. This personal growth extended beyond emotional boundaries. I took on new responsibilities in the village, organizing events and initiating projects that brought us closer to nature and to each other. My leadership was not born out of necessity, but from a desire to give back to the community that had given me so much. Through authenticity, I learned the paradoxical truth. Vulnerability is not a weakness, but a profound strength. It binds us, heals us, and elevates us. As the willows stood steadfast around us, we too learned to stand firmly in our truths, rooted in the rich soil of our shared humanity. As the leaves turned golden and the air grew crisp, our village faced a challenge that threatened the very heart of our community, the willow forest. Developers, drawn by the serene beauty that had provided us solace, planned to clear a significant portion of the woods to make way for new buildings. The news hit me like a cold gust of wind. Those trees were more than just plant life. They were the keepers of our secrets, the silent supporters of our mental wellness. I remember standing at the edge of the forest, the thought of losing this sanctuary sending a shiver through me. It wasn't just my refuge at stake, but our entire community's. The willows had woven themselves into the fabric of our lives, healing us in ways we were only just beginning to understand. This couldn't happen. I couldn't let it. Mobilizing the village, I initiated a movement to save the willows. We gathered our stories, tales of midnight confessions, afternoon tears shed under the gentle caress of leaves, and the laughter that echoed on the breeze. Each story was a testament to the forest's role in our lives, each voice a thread in the tapestry of our community's plea. Our campaign spread beyond the village as I took to the online forums, sharing our plight with the global community that had embraced me during my own times of need. The response was overwhelming. Words of support flowed in, alongside practical advice from others who had faced similar threats. Together, we crafted a compelling narrative not just of a local community fighting development, but of humanity's universal need for natural sanctuaries. During this time, the importance of mental health became a cornerstone of our advocacy. I spoke at town hall meetings, passionately articulating how the willow forest was more than a mere plot of land. It was a lifeline, a therapeutic landscape that nurtured our mental well-being. I shared stories of how the quiet solitude of the forest had helped many, including myself, cope with stress, anxiety, and loneliness. The struggle was arduous, fraught with setbacks and challenges. There were moments when the weight of the battle seemed too much, when the developers' promises of economic benefits tempted the resolve of even the most steadfast supporters. But each time I felt my resolve waver, I returned to the willows, letting the soft whispers of the leaves rekindle my spirit. Our resilience was tested, but not broken. Community meetings turned into strategy sessions, peaceful protests, and awareness campaigns, each step forward fueled by the collective passion and stories of the village. The fight for the willows became a fight for our well-being, a statement of our values as a community. Through this ordeal, I emerged not just as a defender of nature, but as an advocate for mental health. The ordeal highlighted the profound connection between our environment and our psychological health, reinforcing the need for accessible natural spaces. It taught us all the power of unity and the strength that comes from standing together, rooted like the willows in the face of adversity. After months of tireless efforts and fervent advocacy, the tide finally turned in our favor. The developers withdrew their plans to clear the willow forest, swayed by the community's unyielding spirit and the outpouring of support from beyond our village borders. It was a victory not just for us, but for anyone who had ever found peace in the embrace of nature. The celebration was inevitable and heartfelt. We decided to hold a festival right there in the willow forest, under the very branches that had sparked our crusade. It was a beautiful, clear day, the sun casting dappled shadows on the ground, the air filled with the sweet scent of blossoming undergrowth. As the festival commenced, the entire village gathered, their faces bright with the joy of triumph. Tables were laden with homemade delicacies, lanterns hung from the trees, and the sound of music floated on the breeze, a melody of guitars and flutes played by talented locals. Children danced around, their laughter mingling with the rustling leaves, adding to the magic of the celebration. I was asked to speak, a task I accepted with a flutter of nerves and a sense of deep honor. Standing before my fellow villagers, with the gentle giants, the willows, standing sentinel around us, I began to share my tale. I came to these woods as a refuge, I started, my voice steady but thick with emotion. A place to breathe, to speak without fear, to listen. I came as a mother burdened with worries, as a woman seeking her path. These trees I gestured around, they listened. They held my fears and let them dissolve into the wind. They reminded me of the strength I had forgotten, the resilience I needed to muster. The crowd listened intently, many nodding, their own connections to the forest evident in their eyes. But this, I continued, this victory isn't just mine. It's ours. These trees have heard us all. They've been part of our celebrations and our sorrows. They've given us more than just shade. They've given us a space to be ourselves, to grow, and to support each other. I paused, looking around at the familiar faces, now more like family than merely neighbors. Today we celebrate not just a battle won, but our journey of growth. We celebrate every moment of courage, every shared story, every silent tear, and every hearty laugh within the sanctuary of these willows. We celebrate community, our community, strengthened and united by the very nature we sought to protect. The applause that followed was warm. The embraces shared were warmer still. As the evening grew, the festival continued with stories from others, each voice adding to the rich tapestry of our collective narrative. Reflection was woven through every conversation, with many expressing a newfound appreciation for the community and the environment that sustained it. The Festival of the Willows became an annual tradition, not just a mark of victory, but a celebration of life, of resilience, and of the profound connections between us. As the sun set, casting long shadows through the trees, I stood back, a content smile playing on my lips. Here in the heart of the forest, I had found myself. And around me, I saw a community reborn, its roots intertwined like the willows above, strong and unbreakable. As the seasons cycled through their timeless dance, the willow forest not only endured but thrived, bolstered by the protective love of a village that had rallied to its defense. This sacred grove, once my solitary sanctuary, had transformed into the communal heart of our village, a place where the bonds of shared struggles and triumphs were palpably woven into the very air we breathed. Reflecting on my journey from a place of isolation to becoming a community leader, I could hardly believe the transformation, not just in the woods that surrounded us, but within myself. When I first ventured into the heart of the willow grove, I was a woman shrouded in the quiet desperation of single motherhood, my voice barely a whisper against the storms of life. Yet as I shared my truth with the trees, and eventually with my neighbors, a strength I had never acknowledged began to flourish within me. This strength wasn't born from solitude, but from the vulnerability of opening up, of trusting others with my own narratives of fear and hope. The willows had taught us all that to share one's truth was not to weaken oneself, but to forge stronger ties with those around us. This wisdom, once encased in whispers, now resonated loudly through every corner of our village. The willow forest became a recognized communal sanctuary, a living symbol of our village's resilience and unity. It was here that we gathered, not only to celebrate and support one another, but to pass down the lessons learned to new generations. Children played among the trees, their laughter mingling with the whispers of the leaves, learning early the values of openness and support. In this cherished tradition, the whispers of the willow trees continued to guide us. They spoke of endurance through changing seasons, of the beauty found in bearing one's soul, and of the strength garnered from a community that stands together. As I walked through the forest, now with my daughter growing swiftly by my side, I shared with her the stories of our struggles and victories, embedding in her the legacy of the willows. Our village festivals, held in the embrace of the forest, became more than mere gatherings. They were vibrant testimonies to the power of community and nature intertwined. Each festival was a renewal of our commitment to each other and to the sanctuary that had seen us through our darkest and brightest days. In the quiet moments, often just as the sun set, painting the sky with strokes of gold and crimson, I found myself back under my favorite willow. Here, surrounded by the gentle strength of these timeless guardians, I reflected on the journey. The forest had seen me transform from a silent bearer of burdens to a voice of advocacy and leadership, just as it had seen our community evolve from a collection of isolated individuals to a woven network of support and affection. The impact of my journey, mirrored in the life of our village, stood as a testament to the power of shared stories and the undeniable strength of a community rooted in authenticity and support. In the whispers of the willow trees, we found not just solace, but a profound connection to each other and to the generations that would follow, each leaf a whisper of our continued legacy.